All right. Welcome back to another late show. This is your host, Lord Hellespont V, welcoming you to another broadcast from Los Angeles, live. Sorry for my self-indulgence at the beginning there. It just transitioned so beautifully to Miles Davis and John Coltrane playing in 1960 in Olympia Theater, Paris. So I had to rest with that a little bit. I had to take that in. You had listened before, then again to another beautiful collaboration from around the same time of John Coltrane and Miles Davis playing So What, which comes, of course, from Miles Davis's album, Kind of Blue. So welcome back. We are gonna dive right in to our auction preview. As you remember, we were taking a look at Christie's in Geneva, and they had very helpfully divided their auction to two separate headings, 2 different days. November 6th for legendary and unique watches, and November 7th for rare watches. And as we have quickly realized that the November 6th auction is by and large, if not exclusively, based on the property of Jean Todt, the Ferrari Formula One team chief, of course, himself, racing driver and director, who came into major prominence when the Ferrari Formula One team was having its moment, at the late 90s, and of course for some part of the early 2000s as well. At the, of course, Luca Cordero de Montezemolo was the brand executive in a way. Jean Todt was the technical director, and Michael Schumacher was their star driver. It was a wonderful time, even though I'm an Ayrton Senna fan first and foremost. I still remember a lot of that period very, very fondly. Kind of a golden age of Formula One. And I'm happy that the sport is now going through a resurgence and mainstream recognition. That's something that makes me really happy. So here's lot 2036. It is a Blancpain perpetual calendar. We have discovered already that Jean Todt was quite the collector and aficionado of very sporty but also quite complicated watches. I'm not sure whether this is part of his personal collection, but what we have here is another perpetual calendar, this time by Blancpain. And as you would know, Blancpain is the earliest established Swiss watchmaker, but since it had a few different hiatuses, a few different lulls in production over the years, people usually take Vacheron Constantin's claim of being the Swiss watch manufacturer in continuous production and existence more seriously. But of course, Blancpain has a very important place in horology, and this is something that Jean-Claude Biver really foregrounded in his revival of the company. And a watch like this is, of course, an expression of that high horological claim that defined a lot of Blancpain's neo-vintage and modern efforts. Of course, in many ways, you can still say the mothership of Blancpain, the flagship model of Blancpain is the 50 Fathoms, is the diver's watch. But of course, the complicated pieces, especially from the 90s, are quite collectible, and they do also represent great value. And what you have here is stepped case, very beautiful, classically designed. The perpetual calendar chronograph, of course, is beautifully proportioned in the 4 sub-dial layout. The moon phase at 6 o'clock. It's mostly an aesthetic preference, but I do like it even more when it's at 12 o'clock. That's just a minor quibble. Otherwise, this is a perfectly designed watch. As you see, it also has these beautiful pushers, leap year indicator, everything but the kitchen sink. Beautiful watch. A perpetual calendar chronograph in many ways combines just about everything most people love about a mechanical wristwatch. And here you have a prototype as part of this collection, lot number 2036, and it is estimated to fetch somewhere around 8,000 to 12,000 Swiss francs. This is a 18 karat gold Blancpain automatic perpetual calendar with a moon phase, and comes as a full set with its guarantee and box from year 1996. Junior Johnson, thank you so much, by the way, for at least dropping by. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining me, even for that little bit. A lot of these watches, as we have seen, reflect the kinds of associations that Jean Todt and Scuderia Ferrari had over the years, but some of them, as we have seen in the examples from Alain Gonzone, which we have also spotted on Jean Todt's wrist. Check out yesterday's broadcast for that, yesterday night's broadcast. But we also have this interesting collection, a 5-piece collection of FP Journe watches that are, again, much more than simple. Platinum carried the owner's initials on the dial. This is the Tourbillon Souverain that I presented yesterday. A unique piece, the ruthenium model, one of 99, but of course set apart from all other examples by carrying that signature. These already fetch exorbitant amounts of money on the secondary market and in the auction circuit. So you can expect this to go just as high, if not higher. Lot 2029, platinum FP Journe Tourbillon Souverain for an estimated value of 650 to 1.25 million Swiss francs. Of course, it has the tourbillon and the remontoire. You have what has become the signature of the manufacturer of FP Journe himself, of course, chronomètre à résonance, bringing what was Abraham Louis Breguet's signature into the world of wristwatches in the relatively compact sizing of 40 millimeters. It has in many ways put FP Journe on the map, on the mainstream, on the consciousness of the mainstream of horology. Was for a long time not widely appreciated, but now is probably one of the most desirable wristwatches on the planet. Of course, the basic principle is that this is a wristwatch that has 2 separate calibers, 2 separate movements, which regulate each other through a concept called resonance, and another platinum watch, another ruthenium model that was produced for the man himself, JT, Jean Todt. This is lot 2028 and is expected to go for somewhere between 650,000 to 1.25 million as well. And these ruthenium models, of course, have, because of the metal partly, but also because of this coherent, near monochrome elements of design, a kind of cold appearance. But you can also say that's partly what makes them cool as well. I think, platinum seems to be a gorgeous material to go with. for an FP Jaune. If that's in your segment, if that's in your at your price point, by all means. And the ruthenium ones, of course, have this coherent elements of design that play with various shades of gray. Ah, that's interesting. That's a great gift. As you know, Michael Schumacher has given many gifts to the world of motorsports and to Scuderia Ferrari specifically. But as it turns out that in 2004, he gave this personal gift to Jean Todt, a Christmas gift that has the Ferrari logo with the prancing horse, his personal signature, as well as the 5 titles. What a beautiful and meaningful way of consecrating that incredible achievement. And this is another platinum FP Jaune, another ruthenium model. This time what we have is an Octa, the automatic chronograph. The big dates there, the JT signature, of course, centrally deployed chronograph seconds, and minute counter there by where 9 o'clock would be in a conventionally designed watch. Of course, that's one part of FP Jaune's signature. Love it or hate it, it's almost impossible not to recognize an FP Jaune timepiece from a visual standpoint. And this piece, again, number 63 out of 99, lot 2027, is estimated, has an estimated worth of 350,000 to 550,000 Swiss francs. Jake Brooks, welcome back, baby girl. No, I haven't been monetized yet. I have reached and quickly surpassed 1,000 subscribers. I have finally started utilizing my Instagram to pump the channel. I'm very happy with the effect that it has brought onto this world as well. I have submitted all the applications. It will come back, but until then, you know how you can contribute further. Feel free to click any of the links. SP, welcome to the channel. JB, lovely to see you back. Baby girl, thank you for being here. Maldives, I love Maldives, and I love Maldives. Thank you for being here, my friend. I guess the days of personalization of Jean is over. Honestly, that's not something I can really pontificate on. I can only speculate. I would say that we are already talking about a pretty exclusive group of people. I'm sure even in those early days, FP Jaune wasn't personalizing watches left and right, but probably doing these sorts of gestures and compliments to his friends like Claude Sfer, to people like Michael Schumacher and Jean Todt. These days, again, you know, it's in many ways, even though they have the Chanel capital behind them, in a way, FP Jaune, to my understanding, still operates mostly like a family company. So for people who have the connections, who have the access, I'm sure they still do some very personal and some very special things. And I think it's well deserved, that segment, honestly, because It's people spend a lot of money on these watches, even at list prices. But you're right, Maldives. It's at that time, FB Jaune was not necessarily struggling, but it wasn't on the steady footing and mainstream recognizability that it is today. So the mode of operation may have changed. So going back to the auction, we said that this was a wonderful 5-piece collection that carried the initials of Jean Todt on the dial and some other personalizing elements, as we have seen with the Octachrono, with a dedication from Michael Schumacher to Jean Todt. Here we have another ruthenium model, again, particularly signed with the number 63 out of 99. And this is, again, a ruthenium model, again, has a personalized rotor, once again, from Michael Schumacher. Another automatic watch, obviously, as you can see from the rotor. This is an octo. This is an octa with the power reserve and a day and night indicator on the dial. Of course, FP Jaune's own rendition of the oversized date or large date or grand date is right there as well. Another beautiful watch, lot 2026, for an estimated value of 350 to 550,000 Swiss francs. We have another very interesting piece. And one of the ruthenium models, once again numbered 63, roughly from another time, roughly from the same time period, 2004. It must be great to have friends like Michael Schumacher who can gift you 3 personalized platinum watches, right? Again, with all the knowledge that FB Jaune wasn't what it was in terms of desirability, in terms of recognizability, roughly 2 decades ago. Still, that's an extreme act of generosity for Schumacher to put this sort of 3-piece collection together, knowing that his friends, knowing that his friend and boss actually appreciates this particular brand and gifting him these 3 pieces. Again, we have an automatic rendition of the annual calendar complication by FP Jaune, a perfectly balanced watch that shows the day of the week and month through these apertures, and then has around the chaptering of the dial a retrograde indicator or pointer indicator for the date. Again, quite a beautiful piece, a faithful rendition of FP Jaune's own principles of design, and this is again one of that 3-piece that Michael Schumacher gifted to Jean Todt and his 5-piece collection of platinum ruthenium model FP Jaune watches. Now I'm wondering, since the personalization on those watches was on the rotor, and since the other two are actually hand wound, maybe those were gifted by Schumacher as well. I just want to double check that. Right, there's also the Grande Petite Sonnerie, which is again from year 2009 this time. So in fact, we have 6 pieces of that F. Bergeron collection. I'm guessing that if the other 3 were in fact Schumacher's personal gifts, it would have been similarly noted, either in the lot essay or somewhere else where they made this sort of remark, right? For example, that Octa Calendrier, the annual calendar, was specially commissioned from F. Bergeron by Michael Schumacher to the present owner, which is Jean Todt. The lustrous ruthenium-coated gold dial has been personalized with the initials of the present owner, and exceptionally, the movement's rotor has been specially engraved with a personal gift dedication, and additionally with the prancing horse emblem and symbols representing the 5 World Championship victories for Schumacher and Ferrari. So that sort of remark would have been there as well. So we can simply speculate at this point, but clearly Jean Todt himself was a customer of F. Bergeron as well, without necessarily already and always going through the interface of Michael Schumacher. I'm going to send the link again. I'm mostly done here, but I'm going to send you the link once again, and please go through the listings and let me know if there's a model that you would like me to highlight before I move on to the Sotheby's auction. Just to testify again to the ubiquity of perpetual calendars and other complicated watches in this particular curation, in this particular collection, you have Louis Brandt Omega perpetual calendar from roughly year 1990 at lot number 2034 for an estimated worth of 5,000 to 8,000 Swiss francs. And once again, right, it's I was talking to you about how you can see so much history and gain insight into so many different stories that surround watches just by looking at auction catalogs. Look at this, for example, 1990. You have an Omega perpetual calendar signed very humbly by "Thank you for your support, Michael." Right, by one Michael Schumacher, who was probably once again gifted to quote unquote the present owner. And this was his gift in 1990 after having won 5 championships and having arrived somewhere one might hope between those years, and having really solidified their bond of collaboration and friendship. He started gifting him platinum complicated FP Jones from limited series. So it's an interesting trajectory, right, to see how that personal relationship developed and how it was expressed in these very generous gifts from 1990 all the way into 2004. It's really beautiful. Basil, welcome back. And JB, let me check what you shared with me on Instagram. Peeping Time, welcome back to the channel. See you. Oh, another poker one. Oh, the FP Jaune Tourbillon. Yeah, another person that I don't recognize and have no idea about. I'd like to know, though. I always remain open, as you know, Jake. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know this person. Jake says personalized initials on dial, pretty boss, but of course, you know, you might say, can you imagine having a perfect dial and messing up with the letter? You know, remember again, this is what he received as a gift. So Jean Todt himself didn't have much to do with that initial decision. He may have simply continued the practice in his special orders, which we have seen in the other 2 watches. But there's also the chance that he had nothing to do. He had nothing to say in the matter. And honestly, look, I wouldn't do something like that on the dial of a watch. But then again, I'm not Jean Todt. You know, my proper name or my name on social media here doesn't mean much, doesn't carry all that much weight. So it's a different thing, really, when you're such a legend of motorsports to do something like that. It's certainly a different sort of customization than what we might do to our watches. I Heart Maldives says, I wonder if Michelle Yeoh has been photographed with any of these watches on her wrist. Of course, that's Jean Todt's partner. I don't know, but if you have time later, Maldives, I don't know if you caught it, but towards the end of yesterday night's broadcast, we started checking some older photos of celebrations with Jean Todt, with Michael Schumacher, and we could actually spot some of these watches on Mr. Todd's wrist. So he was certainly wearing them, and basically that was a lesson that I learned. That was something that shut me up, because I was thinking, based on the largely pristine collection of these complete set watches, I was thinking that, hey, maybe he has a collection, but he didn't really appreciate them, and that couldn't have been further from truth. This is full on John directing me to the Girard-Perregaux chronograph at lot 2006, black, with an oversized Arabic numeral at 12 o'clock and red subdials for contrast, obviously resonating with the Ferrari red with the team colors. Otherwise, the execution of a pretty regular chronograph in commemoration of the 2000 Formula One championship, number 5 out of 250, a limited edition. As you probably know, and as you remember at least from yesterday's broadcast, at that time, GP was Ferrari's team sponsor, and they made them all kinds of watches, and they produced all sorts of limited editions for them, and this was certainly one. It's a white gold piece, actually, pardon me, from year 2000, of course. And I just want to double check and see what kind of caliber perhaps it had in it, but there's no specification here. I would say that's probably because it's nothing to write home about, but a nice piece nonetheless. And I actually sort of like the dial and wonder what sort of material that may be. Carbon fiber, of course. So it is a good blend of luxurious material in white gold and the utilitarian gesture of the carbon fiber on dial, which of course is an implicit reference to the racing provenance of the chronograph and of this particular limited edition. Let me get another quick skim through these and see if there is anything that I want to highlight. We have, of course, taken a look at the Audemars Piguet millenary chronograph, which has a unique elliptical shape and which probably is one of the most unpopular designs that belong to the AP over time. Even Code 1159 couldn't quite overtake and assume that dubious honor. There was the platinum Alain Gonzone tourbillon that we spotted also on Jean Todt's wrist in one of the celebrations. There is, in fact, again, a very specific and beautiful collection of a 5-piece Alain Gonzone collection there from the first generation of their platinum chronograph to the automatic perpetual calendar from Saxonia to special editions of the Grand Lange 1 with the moon phase. And again, one of the beautiful things about an older Alain Gonzone watch is how you can see the prominence of the yellowish hue that defines the visual appearance of German silver on that 3/4 bridge plate. We had also taken a look at the Flieger Chrono from IWC in 18-karat yellow gold. This was actually one with the so-called mecha quartz chronograph movement that was that was produced by Gégé Lecoutre and that IWC shared at the time. They're no longer really made by Swiss manufacturers, no longer that popular since Swiss industry redefined itself around principles of tradition, of handcraft, of mechanical and preferably complicated timepieces. But there was a period in time in the 80s where these mecha quartz chronograph movements played their role, no matter how small, in reversing the tide against the onslaught of quartz watches coming from elsewhere. We had an IWC Portuguese chiming watch. We have a Cartier Roadster chronograph in 18 karat gold. Roadster, in a way, is the sportier, modernized execution of the Cartier Tortue. So somewhat a contemporary take on that 1920s vibe that a turtle-shaped or a tonneau-shaped, cushion-shaped case brings. I like it, not enough to chase after one, but I think it's one of those designs from Cartier that bring something different to the table, both in terms of their own offerings and in the wider world of horology. And this is lot 2038, estimated to fetch somewhere between 8 to 12,000 Swiss francs or US dollars for that matter. Roadster, reference number 2619 in gold from year 2004. We have also taken a look at the presentation of that Boucheron dress watch with the Gaudron decoration running through it. It looks more like a Dupont lighter than a wristwatch, but still could be an elegant dress watch for the right person, for the right occasion. Of course, it was quartz, but it came with, in fact, a presentation box that carried the initials of Jean Todt and also had a dedication on the case back as well. And there are a number of interesting Patek Philippe's. Of course, you have the 3940, which is, of course, a perpetual calendar with a 36 millimeter case, if I'm not mistaken. That's right. Once again, a full set. As always, a beautiful and classic execution, representing a relative value proposition, of course, compared to the 59 series of perpetual calendars and perpetual chronos because of the smaller case size. But this is lot 2059, so lot 2056 for an estimated value of 50 to 80,000 Swiss francs. You have a number of Richard Mille watches. Again, more recently, they have taken over, taken the helm in a way of being Ferrari's team sponsor. I will skip silently over them, but I do want to look at this perpetual calendar chronograph from Patek Philippe from the same generation, so roughly the same case size, exhibiting those elements of elegant and simple design that characterize Patek Philippe in a 36 millimeter case. 3970, the perpetual calendar chronograph with the moon phase at 6 o'clock. beautiful piece. Comes with the box and papers for an estimated value of $100,000 to $200,000 at lot 2058. And of course, we have one of the masterful executions of Patek Philippe at lot 2059. And this is a perpetual calendar split second chronograph, as you can see, with the extra pusher integrated there to the crown. And that function allows you to split the two centrally deployed chronograph seconds so that you can time two separate events. And you can glimpse at that movement that still carries, of course, the hallmark of Geneva ever so discreetly. This is a Patek Philippe reference 5004 from roughly the end of the 20th century, I'm assuming. It says 97, lot 2059, estimated to fetch somewhere around 200,000 to 300,000 Swiss francs. A really gorgeous and unique piece. I think, to me at least, one of the most desirable Patek Philippe references in the neo-vintage / contemporary period. There are a few watches from Parmigiani, so I do want to take a look at that. We have looked at how Jean Todt celebrated his personal anniversaries and achievements with Bluesy in 18 karat gold. We have also seen his lemon Paul Newman Daytona, reference 6241. And finally, we have also taken a quick look at some of the complicated Vacheron Constantin models that complete this collection. And I might come back to another one of them, but I want to highlight the Parmigiani Fleurier Calpa here in platinum with a 30-second tourbillon, sweep center seconds, a power reserve, and it comes, of course, with its guarantee and box, a hinged case back, I can't really read what it says inside the case back, but right here, homme d'exception, an exceptional man. So once again, I'm sure it is something that was, yes, pièce unique pour Jean Todt, once again, with this special case back. It is a piece that was made uniquely for Jean Todt and gifted to him, and has a very special presentation box there, and represents probably an interesting, if not incredible, value. Enamel painting on the case back, the historical importance, a platinum dress watch made by one of the exceptional makers of today, of recent time, 30 30-second tourbillon, and finally a 7-day power reserve. And that's, of course, the distinctive signature of hebdomadaire Kalpa watches from Parmigiano Fleurier. This is lot 2071, roughly from year 2006, and it is estimated to fetch somewhere around $50,000 to $80,000. Yes, Jolly Roger, do you have a question? I see the question mark, but no articulation. Feel free to say or share anything that you would like. I would appreciate your participation. And finally, I wanted to take a look at that Vacheron Constantin for their Les Historiques series. It's not a watch that exists in that series anymore. It's what they call a Toledo, a rectangular watch, has a complete calendar or triple dates. The date itself is a pointer date that is at the center of the dial. It has 2 openings for the day of the week and the month, with the moon phase at 6 o'clock. That is lodged in there within the small seconds subsidiary dial. I find it to be a very beautiful and discreet design. It sits on the wrist so well with the contours of the case as well, and quite a nicely complicated watch that can be worn for a number of different occasions. And once again, it is personalized with the logo of Scuderia Ferrari, the prancing horse, and dedicated to Jean Todt for year 2004. This was lot 2106. It is a rare platinum Vacheron Constantin Toledo, which is, in this case, a complete calendar with an automatic caliber and a moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock. And it's estimated to fetch somewhere between 30 to 50,000 Swiss francs. Basils, cheese and money. What does that mean, Basils? We went through the first hour, so if you have been listening to this broadcast and enjoying it, learning from it, please feel free to hit the like button. It helps a great deal, gives me so much more exposure. It is what brought me here, and helped me, in fact, cross further thresholds and get even bigger as a channel and as a platform. As you know, this is a channel that is completely independent, that is not supported by any of the bigger channels, that doesn't have the support or the capital of the gray market profiteers behind it, that doesn't have any push from the industry either. It operates completely independently and is beholden to its audience. And I like to keep it that way. I want this channel to be and to remain your platform. Parmigiano for a bit of money. Yes. Nice. Yeah, they can't look. I mean, I'm glad you are taking this humor, because I know you actually own a watch by Parmigiano Fleurier. So I'm glad you are keeping your sense of humor. So, because that's how they're usually dissed. But at any rate, yes, please hit the like button. It helps a great deal. If you spread the word and share the link for the content that I create, including these live streams, but more, in fact, because I have been producing and building this archive of historical narratives, of explorations of certain models, of interviews over the last weeks and months, and it is only going to grow from now on. So share those links, bring more people into the community. It really, really makes a difference for me. And it put me in a place where I'm waiting still for the confirmation, but I can actually get the channel monetized. And on that note, if you do want to support me, especially until that kicks and until the super chats become available, feel free to click any of these links. You can contribute through PayPal at lordhellespont5@gmail.com. That's lordhellespontv@gmail.com. If you want specialized content, a dedicated live stream, that is the best way to reach me. At any rate, that's my primary point of contact, lordhellespont@gmail.com. I also have a Cash App, $LHVVV, $LHVVV. And if you become a consistent contributor on Patreon, you'll have a direct effect in increasing the quality and quantity of content on this platform, since you're allowing me to dedicate more time to this channel, and that is well appreciated. And the information is included in the crawling ticker and the video description. So thank you for considering it. Oh, welcome
LHV.
back. Hey, JB, how are you doing, man?
Good to see you.
I missed you, man. Thanks for joining me again.
Congrats on 1,000 subscribers.
Thank you. It's finally, the work is paying off. What can I say?
Good to see it. I think you'll get some momentum.
Yes, it does help. I mean, it's like a snowball, you know.
Yeah.
So it's slowly turning into an avalanche, and we're going to take the space over. It's meant to be.
The first million's the hardest, right?
That's right.
Incredible GPs there. I mean, I hate that the brand's so stained and then changed ownerships, but buying a vintage GP like that, would you get worried? An older, highly complicated split chrono that you really can't send back. I mean,
Well, here's the thing. Since we are talking about the kind of generous people who have been keeping this channel going from its very, very humble beginnings, actually, I Love Maldives shared an article with me from the CEO who assumed the leadership of Gérard Perregaux and Ulysse Nardin as they split from Kering. And you can consider it so much as a word salad, and I'm a big advocate for healthy cynicism, but there the CEO was basically saying that they remain committed to complicated watches, that they realize that probably Ulysse Nardin or Gérard Perregaux will never be mainstream pieces. So he is in fact leading the brands now away from that desperate attempt to, gain some foothold in the integrated steel sports, luxury, sports chic, whatever they call that genre, with the Laureato, and trying to put it back on track as the distinguished watchmaker with heaps of history behind it. So I'm not going to say, just go ahead and buy a complicated GP like this piece, which is both a split-second chronograph and foudroyant, as the dial indicates, which means it has flashing seconds or flying seconds at 9 o'clock right here.
Incredible. And you'd only see that and a Patek, right?
Well, I mean, you have flashing seconds chronographs. In a way, you can Zenith has them. You can have since 1991, thanks to the module that Richard Habring produced for IWC and that he carries on, split-second chronographs themselves became more available in serial production and more accessible
Right.
to a larger base of people. But probably when it comes to a watch that combines both of these functions into something wearable and into something affordable, we are still talking about $15,000 to $20,000, depending on the condition, box and papers, and the metal that it's executed in. But that's one hell of a watch in such a neat package and at such a price point.
For sure. And I like that it's a Ferrari without having the horse right on the front of the dial, which can
Right.
be, or the shield. You know, that's a little much.
Yeah, it's much more discreet compared to them. It still carries that, of course, the flashing seconds is red. The seconds ring on the chapter, the seconds, the seconds on the chapter ring are in red, and you do have the initials of Scuderia Ferrari as well. Still though, it's just red accents on what is essentially a very classically designed and executed watch. It is very wearable. It's like, it's 40
I love
millimeters.
the yin and the yang there, where it's blue at the the blue hand there, and then you've got the one red at the top, and then you've got the red hand with the one blue, with the blue on the outside.
Right. Beautiful observation there. Yeah. And I think it's not such a thick watch either. I think it must be somewhere between 12, 13 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. So
my point was that the
wearable.
Patek version of this is 150,000 probably, or maybe in six figures at least.
Yeah. Yes.
And so you're getting, but it does make you worry though. I mean, a little bit about who could actually fix this, who could service this, and you would hope to that the brand. I think it's going to hold on. It's got horological history with some good management and putting out incredible pieces like they do. I think they're going to be okay.
I like to think that if the brand disappears, that doesn't mean you necessarily are completely left out in the cold, right? Because obviously not an average watchmaker, but any expert watchmaker worth their salt should be able to fix this, and no one's gonna care about a service card if the brand itself disappears, right? So
yeah, somebody could fix it for sure.
So for people who are in the US, and especially in a metropolitan center, I feel like everyone needs to have a watchmaker that they at least are in a conversation with, if not necessarily in a business relationship. Do you have a cobbler? Do you have a barber? Do you have an alterations tailor?
Sure.
If you're a watch collector, you should at least know who the expert watchmaker is in your area without being beholden to these giant brands.
So I wanted to share a couple stories. I've been to 4 ADs in the last month. Just feedback.
And ADs of which brand?
Rolex ADs. Just popping in. Some I've had extensive history with and some I don't. But I went back to my hometown where there are two. And two completely different experiences. Absolutely complete. Like on the nice, I would say the nice part of town, they figured out that I wasn't from around there and didn't really want to have much to do with me. I looked at a couple of Seikos and a couple of Omegas, and had on a Daytona, and they were just not having it. And I said, show me what you have. And they said, well, we're really not going to sell outside of our par area, and we're just that backed up. And I said, so you don't even know who I am? I mean, not like you know who I am, but there's nothing. You have any earrings, or they were just basically shutting you off completely.
Yeah, no, I understand you didn't mean it in the sense, like, that a lot of times they want to know, what line of work you are in, what kind of spending ability you have, whether you can be a committed customer for them. But look,
it turned me off just because,
but you're also hard to please, right? If you were someone who was just going in there, yes, coming out of the area, but perhaps wanting simply a no date Submariner, or maybe an Explorer, or maybe a Sea Dweller 43, maybe they would appease you. But you are walking in with already a Daytona, and I think it's the yellow gold on Oyster Flex that we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're walking in with a top of the line product.
Yeah.
They already know that you want either something in that segment or something even more rare and desirable. They can kind of suss that out by seeing that on your wrist. And of course, at that segment, they probably have already at least a dozen or a couple of dozen customers that they are having a hard time to please at any rate. That I understand, actually. I know it's a turnoff, and I don't like it when I encounter it myself, but I can somehow make sense of it, because maybe you should have worn next time, wear something that's a little more accessible. But then again, you know what you want, and it's not something that's quite simple. What's the next piece that you want to go for if you are allocated a Rolex piece?
I didn't even get that far with them. He basically said, if you're not from around here, we're not selling to you.
But what's in your heart and on your mind?
I want to get a Yachtmaster 40. It's really close to this case with the way that it's shaped. So,
Right.
And I don't always like wearing gold. In fact, I don't always wear gold. I mean, I don't wear this watch every day.
Right.
But often enough I do. And so let me tell you about the other one in the hometown.
Okay.
I walk in at probably 2:00.
Pardon me.
It was bustling. It was kind of hopping. They had probably 12 people, and maybe I got greeted right away, and I started looking around. I said, all right, show me. I looked at Breitlings. I looked at tags, and there was a tag Monaco that I almost impulse bought. But I said, if you have, this in a certain color, I'd be a buyer. I said, also, what do you have Rolex? I'm not expecting much, but let me just tell you, I'm a watch fan. And but one thing that I do, if I feel like I'm onto something, one thing that I do is my trick is you always buy something. You try and buy like the cheapest thing you can find, but at least they have your card on file. They know who you are, and they can go kind of the next step. So I bought a little bracelet. Just yesterday, I got a handwritten note from that AD. It says, I'll call you when we get this exactly in.
Okay.
I hope your wife enjoys, Mrs. Brooks enjoys the bracelet.
Brooks.
And I'm not going to expect anything the next time, but just think of perhaps them selling me a watch once a year for the next 20 years versus the other guy that's just like, the market's going to turn. And to be quite honest, the watches that I'm asking for are almost at retail in the gray market. But you watch a lot of the stuff that's on the gray market now, and it's like, oh, you got a card? All right, you got a card of it. Let's get a box over here. And now they're calling this a full set, which we know is not. And those kind of things, when you're putting $10,000 to $20,000 into a single piece, does not make you feel real good. And so I would rather, I don't have to have any of these watches, but this is the one in blue. And they had, the first one that I went to had the blue dial, and the other, both of them had them in the case, the rhodium dial.
Look, I mean, the principles of this channel. So when you can actually get a piece at retail, and where you wouldn't be saving a significant amount of money, even when you know what you are looking for, even when you get a full set, I would rather go and buy with an authorized dealer, especially if you are dealing with an authorized dealer and with a sales associate who takes care of you, who treats you right, and who is interested in building a relationship with you. So for me, that the prices are roughly at retail or slightly under, that's not much of an indicator, right? I when it's pennies on the dollar, which is
Yeah.
the poor boy like me, that's how I buy. But when it's like, just slightly under, I would rather buy at retail and actually have a face-to-face transaction and face-to-face interaction with an authorized dealer. I much prefer that.
Yeah, I think
But
when
in
you
either
bought
case,
your watches, you've probably come in and vultured those after
ego,
stalking it.
ego. Well, I mean, my yes, my nickname is Marvelous Marvin Hagler, with two G's. So I always haggle, always negotiate, always wait for the right moment. But also, I will turn something on its head, a statement that people make, when they say vintage is a minefield, right? And there's some truth to that statement, because if you don't know what you're looking for, you're swimming with sharks. You can get to what amounts to a fake watch if you don't know what you're looking for. Something with a restored dial, something that has basically the whole inside changed up with generic parts. Anything and everything can go wrong if you don't have the right guidance, if you don't have the eyes that are trained over years, even decades. But I can say something similar about new watches as well. In the era of super fakes, and in the era of like you said, of sets that are put together from 4 different parts of the globe, unless you are dealing with a dealer, whether that's a secondary dealer or an authorized dealer, whom you can actually trust, I would not do it.
Right.
So if I ever buy a new watch, a contemporary watch, I would rather go to the source, right? There are a few different contemporary watches that I've been looking at. The Tudor Bronze Black Bay 58, or some stuff from Habring 2, a lot of different Alangonzones. And again, unless I'm saving a lot of money, I would not go through the secondary market. I would rather have the pleasure of dealing with an authorized dealer and knowing that I'm getting the full package. If I'm getting a new watch, I want to be the actual first owner. Vintage watches, they have their own charm for me. That's another genre altogether.
Right.
But if I'm getting a new watch, I don't care about this rhetoric about unworn, partially stickered, this new old stock. Get away from me with that bullshit that Coach and 4P and all these other people come up with. I don't care about that.
But they could be fooled easily. That's the thing. They could, in good faith, be thinking they're selling something that is completely fake. I don't think they're opening it. They're getting it in parking lot here and selling it parking lot there. I mean,
Yes and no, because
but you
I
see
want
some
to.
of those too they've got just like, I don't know, a handful of dials. They're at these watch conferences that have, all of these really exceptional, dials.
But
How do they have a stack of dials like that?
I'll tell it to you this way. That has always been going on, right? There are a lot of people who specialize in parts, right? And that can be a good thing and a bad thing. I know a very good place, for example, here in downtown Los Angeles. I don't want to mix up their name with this
Right.
conversation, because we are talking
It's
about
an industry for sure.
hustlers and swindlers.
Yeah.
But there is an expertise in that area, and there are people who collect these parts to particularly put together whatever is more desirable at that point in time, right? So we have to tread very carefully, even when it comes to contemporary pieces. The thing is, and I'm not saying this to say, okay, you should trust gray market dealers, trust me, most of their stock actually comes from authorized dealers. Basically, they have relationships globally. I know of people who operate from Southern California. Again, I'm not going to give any names,
Right.
but they go south of the border. They fly all over the country, mostly in Southwest, but also beyond. And they have backdoor deals with authorized dealers of Rolex. Depending on the popularity of the watch, they put $1,000 more in the pocket of that sales associate, or $5,000 more in cash in the pocket of that sales associate, and then take the unworn watch and sell it at even a higher premium. That's
Right.
their business model. It's really not JB. It's not really wristwatchholic. It's not really Bezos who buys a watch and then wants to get something else and wants to turn that other watch perhaps for a small profit so they can move on to the next one. That's not what sustains this vicious and largely expanded universe of gray market profiteers. Believe me, it's mostly, as much as it hurts me to say, it's mostly authentic watches, but whatever mixes into that, right? When you have all these backpack flippers who don't know anything about watches, why run the risk of getting that fake watch, whether it's one in 100 or 2 in 50 chance of being swindled? Just don't. That's my philosophy, at least.
Or you could get it at a value that you're inheriting some risk there, right? It's a watch where you're taking that risk by the price or the value that you're getting.
That's what I'm going to say as well. Again, with all due respect to
you're
people,
buying what you're buying, right? And
But to circle back to our conversation, right now we are not talking about something fake, but taking a calculated risk. I have just sent you a link behind the scenes, right, last night about that specific watch, platinum GP foudroyante rattrapante for around $15,000. $15,000 gets you at retail, basically, not even on the secondary market. It gets you a stainless steel Daytona, right? More or less out of the door. That's a choice. That's a risk you are taking, right? You can fret, oh, what am I going to do if GP disappears? I don't really know any master watchmakers in my area. Well, first make some friends among watchmakers. Find the person who actually can take care of complicated watches if you're ever in need, and then hunt for the deal. If you can get a split seconds chronograph with flashing seconds on top at the price you can get a stainless steel column wheel chronograph from Rolex, hey, it might be worth the risk, because
so
that's the collection we're pursuing.
Goes all the way. It goes all the way around every. I think it's good advice. One question though on those, because I've never seen one of those split seconds. It has basically eight ticks per second that goes around.
Yes.
So the thing's flying around basically, and
Yep. And split second is basically, there's that extra pusher that's integrated to the crown.
Yeah.
So you start the chronograph, both hands move in synchrony, and then when you press the split second pusher, one of them stays and the other continues, right? So technically, if you're actually doing it to measure something, but we are just fucking around with chronographs for the most part. But you can basically take a note quickly off the calculation there where it stops, and continue calculating the second event. So that's how those functions work. But it is something I'm sure you will have a lot of fun figuring out if you ever end up getting a piece like that.
Yeah, what's funny is before I got the Daytona, I did want one of those Ferrari GPs they're in the lot there. They were almost 6,000 or 7,000. But I was going to buy one of those actually. But I just couldn't get past like the horse that's on the front of the dial.
Right. You mean the other
It's just the horse.
more
Yeah.
regular models that
I was gonna buy one of those even
this one.
before. Yeah, this one, right? I've been hawking this one for a while, just because I think the setup is just perfect on it, except for the horse.
Yeah. Well, again,
And you look like a jerk because you've got the Ferrari on your watch.
For the right person, that can be interesting, and by the right person, I mean people who wear like, Ferrari jackets
Too much.
as their, I mean, look, if I see it on a college student, it can be cool, male or female. It can be a cool look because they are doing it ironically. But when I see a Ferrari jacket on an older man, it does start veering into that territory, right? So same here. I would, between these two watches, I think you are making the right decision by going with something that still carries that name, something that's still identifiably Ferrari, but only to people who know what they're looking for. And it's also horologically relevant. It's not just a fun watch.
Did they personalize the back of that one? I saw that it had
this one. I'm not sure. Let's see the lot essay because it doesn't actually have a picture of the case back. No, it just has the usual engraving, which is Scuderia Ferrari Campione del Mondo, 1999.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm on the move. But
okay.
Now I just want to share the two AD stories, and what I'm going to do in response is write something back or a postcard where that bracelet that I bought is in the picture, and now we're friends.
Good. I mean, it's not, again, you got something for your wife. I'm sure that made her really happy.
It may have been the only sale, for that person for the day, right? And so, it was like a couple $100. It wasn't anything,
right? But it does express some sort of a commitment. It's not. Yeah. It's better than walking out with nothing. Again, it's for me, since I don't have a partner, since I don't have anyone like that in my life, obviously I'm not going to go into those sorts of relationships. And it's partly because of that I don't pursue any contemporary watches, right? I'm not interested in this sort of bottomless pit where I would be expected to spend more and more and possibly get things that I don't need and that I'm not interested in giving away either, right? If I were into that sugar daddy vibes, I would have bought that pink gold day date a while ago instead of going with mostly stainless steel watches. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
Congrats on 1,000. I'm glad I got to join you and talk watches for a quick second.
Thank you. We will celebrate in due time, in good measure, like a proper whole broadcast. And hey, maybe it's gonna happen in time for my birthday as well. So I would love to celebrate it on my birthday too. So we'll see. Maybe we'll catch. Thank you so much, JB. Thank you for being here. Thanks. JB has been one of the great supporters of this channel from the very beginning. When I had barely 200, I think, subscribers, he was one of them. He was one of the people who was pumping me up behind the scenes, who has given me a lot of encouragement, and there's no substitute to that. And I'll never forget something like that. Thank you so much, JB. And thank you also for jumping on today and sharing with us your recent experience at Rolex ADs. And I think there's a lesson in there, in the sense that, you just have to cast your net as widely as possible, and really try to understand the people who are going to be working with you on making this significant purchase, on putting down a significant amount of cash, you want someone you can trust, you want someone who treats you right, and you want someone with whom you can actually build some sort of long-standing relationship. And if you just go to the dealer, to the authorized dealer who is closest to where you live, your options will be severely limited. And if something doesn't click in that relationship, or if they feel like they are above you and they don't need you, you'll be left out in the cold. So, hey, if necessary, you drive around. If necessary, you reach even across state lines and try to find people that you can actually work with. So we have already looked through this November 6th Christie's Geneva auction on November that is entitled Legendary and Unique Watches, that mostly contain watches from Jean Todt's personal collection, including, last but not least, this Ferrari Centigraph that has a red dial, that has Jean Todt's initials on the dial, and that has the full Scuderia Ferrari logo from the abbreviation to the tricolore of the Italian flag to the prancing horse. But in Jean Todt's collection, it might just make sense. This is a Ferrari Centigraph in platinum. It is really a very rare and special watch, no matter what you might think of it aesthetically. And it's one of three, of course, but also unique because of the customization details. As the lot essay says, it was specifically created for Michael Schumacher, and it's the third example for... Okay, there were actually three, but one went to Jean Todt, one went to Michael Schumacher, and the third one, François Paul Jean, kept himself. So, in fact, this is probably the only one that's going to be on sale for a long while yet. This is lot 2110, a unique platinum François Paul Jean Ferrari Centigraph, and it is estimated to fetch somewhere between 800,000 to 1,400,000 Swiss francs in auction. So let's switch gears quickly to Sotheby's Important Watches, which is also an auction that is taking part in Geneva in the month of November. In this case, it's November 9th. We can have a nice little transition because we actually looked at modern recreation, or relatively modern recreation of this watch in the Christie's auction. And here you see a platinum Vacheron Constantin Toledo, again from 1950s, with the execution of the same complication. In fact, a triple date with the moon phase in that iconic rectangular case. It's very lusciously curved to sit just right on the wrist. A very beautiful watch, possibly one of a kind, but most certainly very rare, from 1958. And this is Chocolatone reference 4764, and it is lot 95. It is estimated to fetch somewhere between 500,000 to 1 million Swiss francs in the auction. Now that we are there, I want to actually take a look at that tank that was next to it. I'm sorry. We have a Grand Tank Centré. Again, a very beautiful case shape that is designed to sit right on the wrist while having maximum presence. One of the tank models that has been gaining in desirability over the years. As you might know, the famous Italian collector Auto Montanari, who also goes by the name John Goldberger, has the most extensive collection of these watches throughout history in his possession. This is a Grand Tank Centré from 1940 at lot 96, and it has an estimated value of 100,000 to 150,000 US dollars. Those beautiful heat blued Breguet hands, the elongated Roman numerals, and you also have the blue sapphire cabochon that echoes with the blue of those hands for the hours and minutes. Hey, Watch Nicholas, how are you, man? Nice to see you. And good to see you. It's good to see you as well. By the way, one thing I do want to say about these watches, when you see a Cartier from this period with a movement signed by European Watch and Clock Company, that is actually a collaboration between Cartier and, you guessed it, Le Coultre. So, in fact, a lot of the Cartier watches from this period, and this is something that they have carried on as a tradition for the longest time, are going to be fitted with basically Jaeger-LeCoultre movements. And this is very much the case with this hand-wound Cartier Tank Centré from 1940. I'm going a little bit arbitrarily here and taking a look at lot 89, choosing somewhat at random. This is the 4-digit gold Submariner, famously with the nipple dial, famously, of course, with the applied coronet at 12 o'clock. It's, of course, since it's already in the 70s, it's feet first rather than meters first. As you might know, these gold Submariners were the first Submariners with a date indicator, with a calendar function, so to speak. And this is a reference 1680 from year 1979, roughly, at lot 89, with an estimated value of 50 to 90,000 Swiss francs. And it's an absolute classic, of course. And apparently it comes more or less with a full set, the guarantee, the instruction manual, the chronometer certification, hang tag, the calendar, so on and so forth. And it's beautifully patinated with the dial fully matted out, the patina having taken this deep yellow coloring. The loom pip, I'm assuming, on the bezel, a later replacement, but what seems like an otherwise perfect watch in great condition. I can hardly complain. One thing that I would want to know is, of course, the condition of the bracelet, but they don't show it. Hopefully it wouldn't have too much of a stretch. But this is a beautiful piece, a 1680/8, a gold Submariner with a nipple dial from year 1979 at lot 89. Lot 88 is a red Submariner, again, from roughly the same period of time. This is a 1680 in stainless steel with a bezel insert that has been completely faded out to the extent that it is usually called ghost bezel. The pip has fallen out. One of the usual suspects of the auction circuit, a 1680 Submariner, a single red, so to speak, with that single line of red writing, from year 1972, valued in an estimate of 15 to 30,000 Swiss francs. You have that first serially produced reference of Patek Philippe World Time, designed by none other than Louis Cotier, who was behind a lot of these executions of World Times for Patek and beyond. He was also the person who designed that pusher executed travel time function that Patek Philippe still uses, that helps you jump hours back and forth with the two pushers on the left flank of the case. This is, of course, the original Patek Philippe World Time that was introduced in 1939 and in many ways announced the coming of a new age for Patek Philippe under the stewardship of the Stern family, with a global vision and with an outlook towards creating complicated watches. And this example is from 1942 with a matching beads of rice bracelet in the yellow gold, straight endlings, of course, as is characteristic of the period. As you know, these references of the World Time are positively minuscule at 31 millimeter, quite delicate, elegant, beautiful watches. And because of their limited numbers, of course, they are quite desirable still. Lot 93, with an estimated worth of 80,000 to 120,000 Swiss francs. You have a beautiful Calatrava from the post-war era, a reference 570. Look how beautiful that case is from the profile with those drooped lugs. And of course, 550 is a reference that is quite nicely sized and proportioned for the period. At 35 millimeters of diameter, it's a very wearable and elegant dress watch. The dial here is quite well preserved. The gold has taken a very warm and somewhat rosy patina over the ages. So to me, it looks very pleasant and even more desirable than something new and shiny would be. But hey, we all have our own taste. This is lot number 91. Patek Philippe Calatrava reference 570 from 1946, estimated to fetch somewhere between 15,000 to 30,000 US dollars. A great usual suspect again, with a very charming patina. One of the iconic Submariner references, one of the long-standing Submariner references, the 5513. In this case, you have an example from the 70s. It may be missing again, and this is very common for watches from around this time. It may be missing the luminous pip on that rotating bezel, but otherwise seems to have been very well preserved. A sharp case, the matching bracelet with those rivets that belong to the period, a relatively evenly aged patina on the dial. As you know, since the dial makers and hand makers were distinct entities at the time, they may actually have had different mixes of the luminous material, which is in this case tritium, which ages and fades differently. And I think for me, a perfectly even patina is always much more suspicious than something like this, which seems quite authentic and quite consistent when you look at it between cohesive elements like all the hands and also all the dial. So this to me is a very beautiful example of the reference from year 1970. So if you are not dying to get something with a gilt dial or something with meters first, which ends around 1968 roughly, this would be an interesting watch to pursue, to look for, if not necessarily in this auction, over an extended period of time. But this is lot 86, 5513 from roughly year 1970, for an estimated worth of 15 to 20,000 Swiss francs. You have a model, of course, that has come into prominence in the last few years, which is the Vacheron Constantin 222, no less because of its reintroduction in that famous Les Historiques line of the oldest continuously running Swiss watch manufacturer, Vacheron Constantin. We're talking, of course, about 222. And here you have an example in stainless steel from 1980. They have really come a long way in terms of valuation. They were really not this desirable before the craze for integrated bracelet stainless steel sports watches. And it, in fact, took much longer for the 222 to catch on. It took until the overseas caught on for people to get interested again in the distant origins of the watch. I particularly love the bracelet design on these pieces. I like them actually a little more than the modern overseas, but they have completely gone through the roof, and lot 80 is expected to fetch somewhere between 70 to 100,000 US dollars. And I'm saying this interchangeably in US dollars or Swiss francs, because we have, in fact, a near parity between the two currencies for the first time in my life. So I'm just taking advantage of that. This is lot 77. It is one of the early examples of the two-tone Royal Oak Jumbo. As you see, if not unique, it is quite rare because it is actually double branded by the Roman Greats of Jewelry, Bulgari. And it probably is one of the first times where such a watch is seen in public auction, and therefore lot 77 is expected to fetch somewhere around 100,000 to 120,000 Swiss francs. We have a stainless steel Audemars Piguet Royal Oak that is open worked in the traditional size of 39 millimeters. But of course, quite rare and almost inaccessible at retail at present time. This is the version from 2013, reference number 15305 ST, lot 76 has an estimated worth of 110 to 160,000 Swiss francs. You have 14990, which is a special Audemars Piguet Foundation stainless steel reduced size Royal Oak with that petite tapisserie dial that characterizes the design, that is applied with a pantograph as a pattern in stainless steel, carries on the dial the signature of the foundation, and also an especially decorated rotor in full 21 karat gold. Time for the trees, it says. So that is really the first concern of Audemars Piguet as a corporation. I'm sorry for my cynicism. I'm always very skeptical of corporate social responsibility and not really taken by the premium that such a watch might carry. This is lot 74. It's a Royal Oak Foundation reference, a special edition from 1997, and it is estimated to go for somewhere between 24,000 to 50,000 Swiss francs. We have a Royal Oak Perpetual Calendar with a plain champagne dial that goes rather well with the full yellow gold 18 karat execution. Of course, the moon phase at 6 o'clock. Royal Oak Perpetual Calendars generally are relatively thin for the kind of complication they represent, they hold in them. In the traditional 39 millimeter case, this is a Royal Oak Perpetual Calendar reference 25654BA in 18 karat yellow gold from 1994. Lot 73 is estimated to go for somewhere between 60 to 100,000 US dollars. Let's go for page 1 again and see what else they have in store for us, what they preferred to put in the first place. We have a trio of Patek Philippe watches from the now discontinued reference of the annual calendar flyback chronograph, and I'm talking about 5960. These watches are extremely desirable in whatever material becomes available in the market, but people love the 5960A on the stainless steel beads of rice bracelet with the matching bracelet, which I think is /01A as well. So 5960A/01A is the stainless steel with the matching bracelet, if I'm not mistaken. But these are extremely desirable and even more attractive now that they have been discontinued. This is, for example, the 5960P, which is in platinum, characteristically distinguished by that setting of brilliant cut diamond at 6 o'clock. You have that one register execution of the chronograph, centrally deployed seconds. Of course, the annual calendar that decorates the ring from 10 to 2 o'clock. Has the day and night indicator as well, just so you know, within that register of concentric circles. It's a very attractive watch, very sporty watch, very wearable watch, and therefore has been quite desirable in whatever metal and whatever configuration people can get their hands on. So quite beautiful. And the first 3 lots are different executions of the 5960. This is lot number 2, which is the one in platinum with the blue dial, of course, with the matching buckle, 40 to 60,000 Swiss francs of estimated value for lot number 2. You have 2 beautiful world times by Patek Philippe sitting next to each other at number 4 and 5. One is in platinum and has the engine-turned guilloche decoration, something of a barleycorn pattern at the center of the dial. That's the platinum reference, 5110, with an estimated worth of $20,000 to $40,000. And then you have the 5131J, which is the world time in yellow gold with the cloisonné enamel painting of the world map at the center of the dial. Very beautiful, somewhat more recent, of course, than the earlier reference, but this is a very desirable version, of course, of the Patek Philippe world time, and in a way, one of the most desired Patek Philippe watches, of course, because again, it really embodies that initial vision of the Stern family specifically for the brand and for the world of horology in a way that combines an important and useful complication with the artistry that is reserved for traditional makers. So this is 5131 at lot 5, and it is expected to realize a final price of 90,000 to 140,000 Swiss francs. We're slowly coming to the end of this broadcast. I think I'm also experiencing some connection difficulties, so I might bow out very soon. I'm going to present a few more watches for you. In the meantime, please hit the like button if you haven't yet. It really makes all the difference. If you spread the word, share the links, talk about the channel on other platforms, that will help me reach an even broader base of supporters, reach even a larger audience. That is very important for me. For me, it was just a small step to reach 1,000 subscribers. Now I have much bigger goals. And again, this is a channel that's beholden to its audience, that has no other support whatsoever, financial or otherwise. So I am in your hands, and I'm completely directed by your suggestions, by your questions, by the topics that you generate and you demand from me. And for that, the best way to reach me is always via email, but you can always write comments to my videos. My email address is lordhellespont5@gmail.com. That's lordhellespont@gmail.com. If you want to contribute to the channel, you have a few different ways, and one of them is PayPal, and that is also the same address, which is lordhellespont@gmail.com. I have a Cash App, $LHVVV, $LHVVV. And if you want to become a member on Patreon, be a consistent contributor to affect immediately the quality and quantity of content on this channel, you can always click the link there and join on Patreon. I appreciate each and every one of you. First and foremost, I am indebted to you for your presence. But if you want to contribute more, I really, really would appreciate that too. It keeps me going, and it helps me expand this platform. It helps me put more time into it. So it's something that you will see reflected immediately on the channel. And of course, you can always email me with your suggestions. And if you need any particular kind of advice, or if you're asking for a specific and dedicated form of content from me. This is a multimeter Patek Philippe chronograph that was released on the 175th anniversary of the brand in yellow gold, 5975. I find it to be a beautiful piece. That stepped lugs are a great element of design. Of course, the angles of the piece make it seem a little more modern, combined with those rectangular pushers. I also really love the fact that it has a telemeter on the chapter ring, which is one of the original chronograph features, of course. It also has a pulsometer right within that circle. Again, very functional, very beautiful, and it has a snailed tachymeter at the very center. So it has just about everything that you can imagine, and it combines it with the classical elegance and the slightly sporty, slightly dynamic touch that characterizes Patek Philippe's design. This is from year 2014, 175th anniversary of Patek Philippe. Beautiful sharp case, almost untouched condition. Number 7 for an estimated value of 45 to 65,000 Swiss francs. You have a 5164R. As I've mentioned, the travel time function, is something that Louis Cotier designed after the world time to have something that would be perhaps more practical and more utilitarian to express that sort of um, jumping hour functionality for a Patek Philippe watch. It is something that they carry on to this very day. And the complication that was the first complication to be introduced to the Aquanaut case proved to be really popular. I think it has something to do with the way it balances out, with the way the pushers balance out the design of the case, but also because it is a very practical and very wearable watch to begin with. This is lot 8, 5164R. Outrageously priced, of course, at this point in time, with an estimated worth of 100 to 200,000 Swiss francs. But hey, if something like this is available to you at retail, by all means. A very unique piece at number 13, one of the last watches that I will present today. This is, again, from that 36 millimeter sized version of the Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar in pink gold with this unique brown / khaki colored dial. The moon phase at 6 o'clock, of course. A beautiful watch. Maybe taupe would be one other way of expressing the shade on the dial. This is a piece that comes with both the solid gold case back as well as the exhibition case back that allows you to take a peek at the micro rotor movement in the back. Of course, from year 2014, this is a Patek Philippe seal movement. And this is something that Patek Philippe produced in 2015 as part of a limited edition to be exhibited at the Saatchi Gallery in London. Again, 175th anniversary watch. Patek Philippe basically used new old stock cases with unique dial colors, and there should be about 5 examples of each dial variation. So this is a very unique and very rare watch, 3940 with a taupe colored dial, Saatchi edition, number 13, 3940R, and it is estimated to fetch somewhere between 60 to 100,000 Swiss francs. We have one of my favorite pieces, a very unique complication, a very unique way of displaying time when it comes to a mechanical watch and when it comes to high horology producers. This is the Lange Zeitwerkdatum or date, which has, in addition to the digital display of hours and minutes, also has a jumping date. And actually, if you go to their, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice, I think, which is really bad. If you go to their webpage and if you go to the page of this particular model, you'll see that everything jumps perfectly at midnight. So you would see the hour, the minute, as well as the date jumping concurrently at the same time, all at once at midnight. And I think it's a masterful display of horological craft. The Zeitwerk, of course, in its display is modeled exactly after that stage clock that was made by the very ancestors of Walter Lange, namely Gutkes and F.A. Lange himself, for the Dresden Opera House. So this is lot number 18. It's a Zeitwerk, date by A. Lange und Söhne, reference number 148.038, a white gold unique wristwatch with digital displays, roughly from last year. Of course, that Auf und Ab indicator, the power reserve indicator at 12 o'clock as well. So a watch that screams Lange, and it is estimated to fetch somewhere between 100,000 to 150,000 Swiss francs. Yes, peeping time. It's the whiskey isn't helping in and of itself, so we'll need to do something about it. On that note, I think I'll call it a night, and I thank you for your support and presence. Please hit the like button on your way out. I'll return tomorrow night at the same time and finish off my presentation for the November auction of Sotheby's for watches in Geneva. In the meantime, please spread the word about the channel. Please support the channel in any and every way you can. The links are there. The information is in the crawling ticker and is included in the video description. I'm here for pure watch talk every day, every night, and I welcome you. This is your platform. Don't forget to come back tomorrow. Until then, I bid you adieu. Take care, friends.